So welcome back to Thoughtful Thursday. So the topic for today is ambulance chaser. So I don't know, a few weeks back, maybe a month ago, a couple people posted after we posted one of our topics online about handling a personal injury claim about being an ambulance chaser. So this topic really isn't just for me, it's for personal injury lawyers all across the country. And so I think what's important for people to see in the big picture of what lawyers do, because I think people often forget all of the safety warnings, all of the things that we have in exist in society that protect us from harm are generally caused by lawyers. So a simple example would be the eye on an elevator. So elevator doors close, and in the past, when elevators were first created, there was no electronic eye, there was no two rubber stoppers. Doors would just close on people, which caused massive injuries. And so lawyers, of course, brought suit to protect the public from harm, one, for the people who were already injured, but we're always looking ahead to prevent injuries from happening in the future. And so the device was created and it became safer. Warnings on escalators, warnings on products, all the things that we see for things that are created under the Federal Drug Administration for prescriptions, where you have black label warnings, because lawyers bring cases against drugs that harm people, hundreds of thousands of people. So a lawyer's job is not only obviously to help somebody when they're injured and to regain and make them whole by getting them a settlement, it's to prevent the population and the public from future harm. So kneeling buses, for instance. So when buses were created, they didn't kneel ever. And so people who were disabled and even non-disabled people, older people, were falling off the edge of the bus trying to get down because there was too much space between the curb and the bus. So now we have kneeling buses. There are just thousands of examples of things that lawyers have done, or even the threat of having a lawyer. So if we go way back and we talk about the Ford Pinto, remember that Ford created a car that they knew was going to explode. So before it was actually sold to the public, an engineer realized that it was unsafe because the muffler and the gas tank were too close together, and in a rear-end collision, the car would explode and the occupants would either become seriously injured or die. Ford chose to produce that car because they felt it was cheaper to pay the hundreds of thousands of people who would be injured than to retool the entire assembly line and make a brand new car. And so during the lawsuits that lawyers handled and worked to figure out what happened, they discovered that Ford had lied and hid that information from the public and produced the car anyway. And since then, there are much stricter standards and much more controls, and a company would really have to think twice because of the penalties that were brought against Ford, and not to mention the public scrutiny and how it affected their brand. So next time we think about calling a lawyer an ambulance chaser, because nobody's out chasing ambulances, right? We don't reach out to you. I can't do an in-person solicitation. Someone who's injured has to come to me first. And so before you think about when we broad brush an entire group of people across the country, such as lawyers, and call them ambulance chasers, just remember our job is to make you safe and to protect the public from harm. So thanks for joining me. Those are my thoughts on ambulance chasing. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you next week.